Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, a show where we talk about all of our geeky interests, a show about movies and TV shows, comic books, and video games. We may be sounding clearer this week because we got new microphones.
Yup. You know it, bro.
You know it. So
How
hopefully...
do I sound? Does my voice sound buttery?
I hope so.
Buttery and sweet.
I hope so. Apparently in our first episode, you can't really hear you. So...
Which our first episode ever?
Ideal,
Can't really hear anything, really.
HTD, Howard the Duck one.
Yeah.
Well,
Howard
look...
the Duck. It'll go forever go down as the best episode that could have been.
that we did twice.
If you only heard it. If you only had Shure microphones.
Sure microphones.
You can find them on Amazon.com using our phone.
My name's Tommy. Delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's DL.
How's it going, dude?
Great, man. How you doing?
It's been a busy week, but I've just seen these microphones sitting there by my desk for now a week and a half.
Oh.
And I've just wanted to open them and use them, but half the stuff's at your house, so I couldn't. And now we're using them, and we're gonna see how it turns out. You know I
die when cats are around me.
They say though it's not the arrow, it's the Indian. Is that a saying? Let's say that in the States. Okay, like your example when you burned yourself with the old you were using the oven mitt, but you were using it wrong. User error. Yeah, so I don't think these are gonna make our podcast any better or worse.
Hey, it can't get much worse. Let's be perfectly honest.
But it's fun to talk about, and they're cool to use. So. And they look really slick.
Yeah, they look pretty great. Look, we are not actually getting any kickbacks from this. So let's not talk about them too much. Let's just enjoy looking at them in our visual medium.
That's just the listeners can't see.
Yeah. So what have you been up to, buddy? What have you been doing?
I have been watching Shadow and Bone, which I told you about. Which is like, the more I say that, the more it just seems weird to say.
Shadow and Bone.
It's a weird name. Shadow and Bone. Like, no one knows what that is, and
no.
Kind of sounds a bit creepy to say, like I'm shadowing and bone. Shadow and Bone is.
It's supposed to be creepy.
Yeah,
so what episode are you up to?
I think I just finished episode 4.
Okay, great. I think I did too.
How does it end? Remind me.
Something to do with a stag.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we can talk then because I was going to say I assumed you'd flown ahead with that.
No. I held back for you. Okay. I am a good friend.
I appreciate that, but that's not why you held back. I'm assuming you were doing other things.
Well, there was that, and I did think okay, it'd be better if we were at least on the same page.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could do an episode on it in a couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
What do you think about it so far? What are your initial thoughts?
Dude, I want to like it, but I don't like it that much. I'm still watching. I'm intrigued to watch more, but it's very high fantasy tropey. And the main characters bug me.
Mm-hmm.
The two main ones I don't like. But I do like the guy from Westworld. Forget his name. We should give him more than that.
Ben Barnes.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of this, the what is it called? The rip or the fold?
The rift.
The fold.
Whatever it's called.
It's like this kind of alternate dimension in between a country. It's kind of, and I also
classic fancy nonsense.
It is, but it's kind of unique. It's kind of like The Wall, but a bit different. It serves a different purpose. And I do like the way the setting is done. I'll try and explain it to the viewer or listenership.
Right.
It's set not purely in a medieval time the way lots of fantasy is set. It's kind of almost if we were at the age of Western. People have guns, people have carbines. There's these old school style Gatling guns. Trains, and some people have the technology of this setting is actually more advanced than you see in typical fantasy. I'd say
sure
and it's therefore the magic is not this overpowering thing. It is useful. They can still get shot and killed, and basically there's at one point there's a quote that says, hey, they used to say for every Grisha, which is kind of wizard, I guess, I don't fucking know, magic person, it's worth 50 soldiers. And then they continually there's a quote, I'm butchering it, but this general's all angry, and he's like, then it was 25. Now it's if we lose 1 for every 8, it's good. At what point are they going to be just as good as, a carbine rifle? So it's interesting, and it's different, and I guess
it's almost a metaphor for moving out of certain things into sort of the newer age.
This is what and it's also just refreshing to have a fantasy with guns, it's different. But the main dude and the main girl are kind of boring to me.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah,
I'm watching it because I feel I have to. Yeah. I am not enjoying this series at all.
Yeah, I fair enough. Most of the things I've talked about are on the peripheral.
Yeah, sure.
They're not core elements. Not one character am I in love with.
I don't even like Ben Barnes in this.
I don't mind it, but he's just the
his
classic.
accent is dreadful. He's clearly going to have like the classic like
it's just the
bad
classic
guy
fantasy trope with him.
Do you
but
think he's
just
going to be the bad
good looking.
guy?
I think I just like him as a dude. I just got a man crush, bro.
Yeah, a little bit. I do as well, but like I don't think he's good in this. Like everything I've seen him in, I've liked him in.
I don't think he's bad. I just think this is super tropey.
Yeah, super tropey. Yeah. And honestly, some of the writing's bad. Some of the visuals are not great.
The letter sequences, they're so cringe.
And they're constant.
It's cringe.
There's no like downtime between the letter sequences.
Honestly, the most interesting things I like want to see more about like are barely shown. So like the chick and like there's like this whole other race that just like not race but country that is at war with this one country who hates magic at all times, and I'm sure we'll see more, but the chick that's been like abducted by them, one of the witches that's going to be sentenced to death from this other country.
Well, she's not a witch, she's just a magic user, right?
Whatever, that's what they're calling her, a witch.
Yeah.
Point being is she's like some of the best acting in the show so far, I think. Yeah. And there's been like 2 scenes with her. Anyway, I agree. I'm not loving it. I can't give it its recommendation.
Yeah, let's hold off because you never know. We've got 4 episodes left. Let's do an episode on it later on.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. My only thing I'm going to call you out on is last week you said you liked the main chick from this series, and I
had only seen one episode though.
She is completely cardboard.
Had only seen one. Did I say that? I don't remember saying that.
Her and Daniel Radcliffe, they should like get together.
I don't remember saying I like the main chick. I think I said.
Well, I'm not going to put a clip in here. That's way too much work. But you definitely
I will listen to our podcast from last week for the first time. Yes, I should have listened.
Someone
to it
should.
Anyway.
Someone should.
But I was 1 episode deep in my defense.
Yeah, no, fair. That's fair. And I can see why. I think some of the backstory stuff's pretty. Anyway, let's not dive too far into that. Like, it's interesting. I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. Right now, not sold on it at all.
And to be honest, like I've now been like watching and listening to more fantasy just since Game of Thrones, looking for something that's similar to it. Have yet to find anything half as good.
No.
But this is like low on the list so far.
Real low.
Things that I've like fantasy that I've liked that I would like adapted. So far, it's not top on the list. But then I've also been playing The Witcher 3. I finally got into it.
Oh, you got into it. Nice. How's that going?
It's quite good.
Where are you up to? Percentage-wise?
Who fucking knows,
Give me a percentile.
The game is gigantic, dude. Who knows where I am? I could be 2% in. I could be almost done.
100% in.
I'm pretty sure I've done like 3 main story missions, but it's really hard to tell because they're all intertwined.
At least Horizon Zero Dawn, I'm playing right now, gives you like a percent of how far into the main story you are. So I know I'm 11% in.
I kind of like not knowing, to be honest.
But then I know I
just get sucked in though.
Yeah.
Have
you done side quests?
I'm doing side quests. I'm also like really into the game that you can play in it, which is like the nerdiest thing I
hated that.
I love it.
That's where I stopped. So when you had to beat the guy in the game,
you don't have to.
Oh right,
it's
really?
a complete side quest, but
because
it's just
no,
fun.
No, but there's a point where you have to beat a guy so you can move on with the main quest, and I just didn't. I was like, this sucks, and just turned it off. I didn't even try.
You have to.
I didn't.
So
even
far,
try.
I haven't. But maybe I'm not that far into the main quest. But I would beat him. My card deck is lit, bro.
Oh,
my card deck is lit. So
the only game that the only ever mini side game thing I've ever played to any level in a game was in Final Fantasy X, and they had this weird underwater soccer volleyball hybrid.
Yeah.
Do you remember it? Blitzball?
Yeah.
And the first time I ever played that game, I was like, fuck, this is awful. And the second time I played it, I got into it and I got some, but I managed to early on get some good players, like by pure chance.
Is there like an element of like, you have to like do certain things right in the story to get good players?
I can't 100% remember, but I remember you can meet people along the way. And if you're lucky, you can bring them in, or you do certain things, you can get them in your team. And like my team was dope. I remember it being like, I was sick, like, and I won like whatever the league thing was. And I was like, oh, cool. But that's the only time I've ever been into a thing in a game like that. The rest of them, I'm like, I don't give a fuck about this.
No, typically I'm not. But I love The Witcher for the storyline and the lore,
absolutely.
And the characters, and like the narratives are really good, and it's like there's a lot of gray.
Yep.
I will say that it feels like there's something missing in these games, though. Like for an open world game, there is certain elements of it feel static, and there needs to be like a physics engine or something. It feels very like, I don't know, I can't really place it, but like the way you
floaty?
Jump, floaty, and like there's no like.
Well, you know what the comeback would be to that, right? Like that he's literally fucking magic. So.
Yeah, but that's not like, I mean, like the mechanics of it.
No, I understand, but like that's what the comeback would be. He's magic.
A
wizard did it.
It's like a 6-year-old comeback. So whoever says that's me.
A wizard did it.
I will say like if they had like GTA physics
yeah.
engine in this game, it'd be like one of the best games I've ever played.
I tell you what I'd love to do is actually talking about The Witcher 3. I actually watched like I think it was like a YouTube list of shows that tried to be Game of Thrones or something.
Mm-hmm.
Not only would I like to talk about that, but I'd also like to rewatch The Witcher, and I'd like us to talk about The Witcher at some point, because I would like to go back to that show and see if on a second viewing it makes any more sense.
I enjoyed it more on the second viewing.
Did you?
I did watch it again.
Because I've only seen it the one. I watched the first time with you, right?
But it still has flaws.
Yeah,
and it still wasn't.
But I would also quite like to talk about those flaws because it's quite funny.
Yeah, no, it still should not have been set up the way they set it up.
No,
but like knowing after playing the first game and knowing more about the world, and then like going back and knowing that there were 3 timelines, it was more enjoyable to watch.
But we knew, so like we guessed that in the first episode.
But they're not good at like showing what timeline you're in.
No, they're absolutely not.
And it shouldn't have. What they basically tried to make it do is almost like guesswork, but it's like that didn't drive the story forward.
No. And characters weirdly don't age in it.
Yeah, or the drama. It didn't have a dramatic effect like in a Christopher Nolan movie.
No.
So like you were kind of just confused trying to figure out where you were, and it wasn't actually serving any purpose to the story. So it was just, and the CGI was kind of bad.
Amazing. I'll tell you what I've been doing this week. I mentioned it last week. I started a show called Invincible.
Yep.
And I mentioned it to you, and I was like, the first couple of episodes, I was like, this is sick. It's like an anime. I told you it's an animated Amazon show.
Really cool.
You watched it?
I've heard.
Oh man,
the reviews on IGN are actually quite phenomenal.
I literally I watched like 1, 2, 3 and was like, yeah, okay, this is fine. And then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 just went like that. Like they just flew. I was like, wow. It's so good.
This is what I've heard.
It's so interesting as well.
I've heard that it's like starts slower, but it fucking really picks up. You're saying it's just good all around. Time.
It snowballs.
Yeah.
But it's really like so the end of the first episode is this massive like big twist. Like you just annoyingly, I kind of knew what was going to come. Like I've heard about it on different podcasts.
You need to stop doing that to yourself.
But I listen to so many geeky podcasts. Like I can't help it.
Every single time you're like, annoyingly, I knew the ending of the game.
But I was
annoyingly, I played The Last of Us, but I knew the ending of the
game. Look, I knew it was coming, but at the same time, it was still really shocking to see. Yeah. And then this show, the great thing about it is like you're never sure of what's going to happen. Like it literally like throws so many curveballs at you, and like sometimes that can be sort of M. Night Shyamalan, a bit like over the top and not very, like it's hard to empathize with people that are just constantly confused and everything's going against them.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's good because it shows the infallibility of a lot of the heroes and how their personal lives are so completely different. It's really
basically
interesting.
Game of Thrones for the first 4 seasons. Like every character you want to have anything good happen to, everything bad happens to.
I'm gonna give you my login for Amazon so you can watch this because it is dope.
I'm down. I think I actually have Amazon for another 2 weeks, so I'll try and watch it.
Just watch it.
Yeah, I'll
just
try.
get
it. Is it 30-minute?
It's like 45-minute episodes though, so they're not short, but it's 100% worth it. I think you'll watch the first episode, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's good. The next couple, you're like, okay, but like from 4 onwards, unbelievable.
Love it.
Like so good.
Love to see it. Hear about it, I should say.
And honestly, I've not had a huge amount of time to do other stuff.
So yeah, I was Witcher 3, Shadow and Bone. I think I watched a bit of Superstore as I always do. God, I love that show, man. It's quite funny. And I guess from there, I didn't do much. I was a pretty busy week. So I guess, have you heard anything in the grapevine?
Have we heard anything?
There's quite a bit. There's quite a bit that's happened. I know.
Let's get to that in a minute. I'll give you. So what happened was we recorded early last week. We're now recording at the normal time this week. And after we recorded last week, so much happened. And then we've had this massive drop in the last 2 days. So let's try and talk about a few bits of exciting news that have happened. Yeah. Let's start with a bit of one that I don't give a crap about. I'm not going to lie to you. So first and foremost, did you hear this week that the Morbius movie has been delayed for the 5th time?
No, don't
Do
care.
you even remember who Morbius is?
Yeah, Morbius.
Okay, great. We'll skip on from that. So, but actually, one piece of interesting news that has come out this week is that DC is doing another fandom. Now, I don't know if you remember last year. What they did was they did almost like a Comic-Con style online event where they dropped all the shows. That's where the Batman trailer came from. And they, I think that was when they announced that they were releasing the Snyder Cut, maybe. Anyway, so they're doing it in October. That should be massive. Hopefully we'll see more of Robert Pattinson as the Batman. I would fucking love that. That's a good one. We'll talk about that close to the time because a lot of DC stuff is happening. There's a lot in the works. But going back to what we were just talking about, did you hear that Invincible has been renewed for 2 more seasons?
I did not hear that.
I'm so pumped for that.
I barely knew about Invincible, but
yeah, but you do now.
That's good. I mean, if it's as good as you're saying, I'm sure.
Well, maybe next week we'll come back to that and I'll ask you again, like if you've, if your opinions change or anything, if you're excited.
Yeah, no, I'm down.
Look, there's a couple of other bits before we get into that big bit of news. what I've done is here I've broken it down by random stuff. We'll then talk about Marvel. And then we'll talk about video games. What was yours? What was your random
Lord
one?
of the Rings, Merry and Pippin are launching their own podcast.
Oh my god!
In a trend that is continuing from show to show and movie to movie.
Yeah.
Where people of like, you know, notoriously famous shows, say like Entourage,
are
starting podcasts to talk about their time doing that show. They're doing the same thing for Lord of the Rings, interviewing cast members. You know, we can't really hate on it as we see.
You can't hate on it, but like it's taking attention away from people who are trying their hardest. You know?
Anyway, I thought that was random. Another one, Andrew Garfield says he did not get a call.
Yeah, I heard that
for
too.
Spider-Man.
Do you believe him?
Honestly, he was really candid on this podcast, cursing a lot. Like,
was he?
Yeah, he was like, I think they fucking have reached out to me by now. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't in it.
I literally like I don't believe that for a second from the sheer amount of rumors and leaks we've had. But you know what?
You reckon this is like Marvel saying, "Hey, go somewhere and talk about
somebody actually, yeah, exactly. Maybe, yeah. He Alfred Molina completely screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah, could be.
Like, who knows? Like, but they're getting Electro back. So the way I'm seeing it is, they've got two bad guys back from each of those franchises, right? They've got Doc Ock and they've got Electro. Do you not think there's other people that could come through as well? Like, who knows? Well, did you actually hear this interesting one? Talking of finding new shows and like watching new shows, apparently Netflix announced they're doing like a shuffle feature, like a play something feature.
I've heard this. If you wait too long,
how interesting is that?
They've been talking about doing that.
That's so fucking cool. Probably they've announced it. So
I mean, there's a lot of bullshit on Netflix. So I will not be using that feature.
But at the same time, like if you just want something to put on, like I know I stay with my girlfriend all the time, and I'm just like, oh, are we going to play this game again? Like, what?
But that's mainly because you can't agree on what you want to watch, right?
We usually agree on stuff.
Can you
just
shuffle?
Flicking through stuff?
I'm sure you should be able to shuffle between your list. That'd be good.
There's going to be fun, man. I'm excited for this. Look, there's a shit ton of other news and have you heard that have come out in this last week, but like the big one is that they finally dropped like a bunch of information about Marvel Phase 4.
I mean, like everything. They just dropped everything. And they didn't give us a ton of like trailers beyond things we already had. They gave us like a little bit of snippets and like mostly just dates. But
they gave us some snippets. They gave us snippets of the Eternals, which is super fun. I'm excited for that.
Got a little snip of Richard Madden just hanging out.
The one guy I wanted to see though, Jon Snow. Where the fuck was he?
I mean, he was. I don't think he's gonna be a big feature in this movie.
No, but well, they gave us a couple of other interesting tidbits as well. They led us into the name of the new Black Panther movie, which is going to be Wakanda Forever, which sounds like a great way to continue that franchise. The next Captain Marvel movie is going to be The Marvels, so you'd assume that's going to have Ms. Marvel in there as well. He's obviously got her own TV show coming out. And they also gave us a date for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Which is
I'm
so excited. Last one.
Yeah,
like
I mean
4 years away or something.
No, it's May 5th, 23.
I thought it was 24.
Nah. So, well, the interesting thing about that is that will be after the Christmas special.
What do you mean? Of Guardians of the Galaxy 3?
Yeah, they're doing the holiday special for Guardians of the Galaxy. You know that?
But it won't be... Usually holiday specials are just a little bit of an edited version.
No, I think this is like a full a full movie, a bit like the way the Star Wars special was. Well, look, we got release dates for all these. We knew obviously some of them: Black Widow, July 9, Shang-Chi, September, November, The Eternals, December, Spider-Man. Fuck me, that's 4 movies this year.
Yeah,
that's one a month for the last September, November, December. So
it's a bit too much, to be honest.
It could be, but it's going to give us a lot of good content.
I'm excited,
so
it is a bit too much. I'll be marveled out by the end of that.
Well, and Doctor Strange is next year in March. May we've got Fall of
I'm actually really looking forward to Doctor Strange.
I am as well. Super pumped. But if you think as well, like imagine all this stuff we're getting, and all the TV stuff we're getting as well. So we're getting obviously Loki. We're getting What If. What If's coming sooner than you think. So is Loki. It's a bunch of animated shows which are alternative takes on timelines.
Oh yeah, I remember.
An example is T'Challa being taken up instead of Star-Lord as by Yondu, and he then becomes
a weird thing to do.
Yeah, but I mean that's very Marvel. A lot of the comics have to like it's got like zombies and shit in there as well. This phase looks fucking incredible. Are you pumped for it?
I am pumped, and it's a lot of new stuff.
Well, they also put the Fantastic Four.
They put
in
up
there
the logo.
As well.
They just put the logo up. They didn't give a date.
No, they didn't. But that implies it's going to be this phase.
Yes.
Which is fucking massive. We didn't expect to see that until Phase 5.
No, they'd already showed the 4.
Yeah, but that doesn't
mean
mean
you knew it was coming.
I don't know, man.
Do they usually announce in a full phase before?
I'm fucking so excited for that, bro. Like, okay then, so let's go through them again. Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man, Multiverse of Madness, Thor, Wakanda Forever, the Marvels, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. What are you most excited for in that? Maybe give me a top 3.
Guardians.
Yep.
Multiverse of Madness.
Ooh.
No order, and then I'm just debating between Thor and the Eternals. Probably Thor.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm personally looking forward to the new Spider-Man movie. That's for me, that's way up there. You're right, probably Multiverse of Madness, and then like it's really hard not to say Thor because of how great the last one was. But I'm really excited to see the end of the Guardians trilogy. Like that's what.
I think you have to include Guardians.
Yeah, it's
because they've been the best.
That reignited my real passion for these because I remember when, we were in phase 2 and we were having Thor 2 and Iron Man 3 and everyone was a bit like, oh. And then Guardians of the Galaxy came out and it was fresh and it was new and it was so exciting. So I can't not be excited for that, buddy. It's going to be fun.
It's just the actors are really funny and it's good.
Yeah. All right. Quick bit of game news. Do you fancy a bit of game news?
Gaming news,
bro.
Are you going to talk about the mod for Resident Evil Village that has Barney instead of a zombie?
No.
Do you know Barney? Do they have that in the UK?
Barney.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Like, I love you. You love me.
For some reason, my head went straight to Barney Gumble from Simpsons.
No, it's a fucking purple dinosaur from the Child Show. Yeah, somebody modded so the zombies are just Barneys just running.
Wow, that should be terrifying.
It's actually quite terrifying. It's weird, but it's also terrifying because they're just lumbering.
Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, anyway, no, I knew you weren't talking about that, but I just
wanted to talk about it. Tell me more. Is that the new? Is that for the Village?
Yeah, somebody already has a mod. I don't know how.
Christ.
I think it's like because there's like a demo out that people could download, so somebody's modded the demo.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, all right, maybe not quite as fun as that. I'm excited to see that. An inside report has suggested that there is a Marvel fighting game coming, and it's apparently going to be from the team who did Mortal Kombat and Injustice. If you remember, I told you about Injustice a while ago. That could be fun. I don't play fighting games, but imagine getting those characters on screen and kicking the shit out of people like you would in.
Yeah, I'm not a big fighting game guy, but
no, me neither.
That would be a hit. Didn't they? They've done one of those before.
It can only loads of times. Marvel vs. Capcom.
Because I remember like Master Chief from Halo was in one as like a special character.
It can only be better than that Avengers game, which was trash.
So can I be honest? Like I think that Insomniac should just get the rights to all the Avengers stuff and just take this Spider-Man formula and then like do the same thing with each superhero with different mechanics.
The challenge with that is though, like that's only a small team, and if you were trying to force them to do other games as well, then your Spider-Man games get pushed back, and
that's okay.
It's all about balancing their workload, right? You want other like developers to
they
step
always
up.
do this. They take like half the guys from that studio, give them like a career opportunity to go lead the new thing. That's what they're doing with like Halo and stuff. It doesn't always work, but.
Well, anyway, did you hear this week that there is a rumor that there is a Mandalorian game in development?
No.
They
had one of those back in the day. Didn't they have a Boba Fett game?
Bounty Hunter long time ago.
It was quite good. Yeah. I remember playing it. It was like GameCube.
I've never seen it. I've never played it, sorry. But it looks fun. It looks fun.
It was cool.
There's been so many cancelled Star Wars games over the years.
There's been so many ones that should have been cancelled.
So good. Yeah. There's so many that should have been, so many that were. Yeah. There was one that was based around like one of the underbellies of like one of the criminal worlds. And it was like right in the final stage of production, and then they canned it at the last minute. And it's like you can see like the final trailers for it and shit, and it looks incredible.
I mean, I think my favorites were Battlefront. Battlefront were pretty cool.
Battlefront, yeah, that was a good one. The original, the OGs.
I only played 1 and 2. I don't know if there were more.
Yeah, okay.
But those were cool. And then there was like Star Wars: The Knights of the Old Republic.
Which is the one I was going to say.
I didn't play it like all of it, but I remember it was pretty cool.
Do you know the ending?
I don't remember.
You fall into the trap. No, I'm kidding.
I'm pretty sure it's like a pretty big cliffhanger.
Though. There's a lot. There's a second one, isn't there? Yeah, the second one's meant to be incredible.
I heard that like the second one was a prequel though.
Huh.
So it didn't actually like answer the questions. Anyway,
who knows? Hey, look, if you guys have heard anything you would like to tell us about this week, any have you heards that we miss, any news, anything fun, let us know. Like hashtag us on Twitter, Podcast Assemble. We will find you. But for our last piece of news this week, which is going to segue us nicely into our main topic, it has been announced this week by Naughty Dog that the story outline has already been written for The Last of Us Part 3.
Really? I don't know about Part 2, so don't spoil me.
But they are not working on the sequel right now. So it's like the story is already, outline is already there, but they're doing other stuff for the moment.
Yeah, let them have fun.
Exactly. They've just released the fucking second one.
Yeah.
So
sure. I don't know the second one. I don't want any spoils.
And that's what I was going to say to you before we start talking about our main topic, because I know you've got it.
Yeah, I've got it. It's
on
the list.
You haven't finished it. Okay, great.
I haven't even started it.
No, that's perfect.
I think Witcher 3 is going to be quite a beast to conquer.
Oh God, yeah, that's going to take forever.
I don't think I'll be doing anything. Yeah.
Well, what do you want to preface our main topic with a main topic theme?
Main topic today.
Main topic theme.
Main topic theme.
If anyone wants to send us a main topic theme, my brother was thinking about doing it. Send us a fucking main topic theme.
Main topic theme.
I'd love that. I would, if anyone said us that, I would just shoot myself. Send it to thepodcastassemble@gmail.com.
Yeah, we're doing The Last of Us, and to be fair, I don't think we had like a game plan for this, so we're just gonna go through it. Like what happened in the way we normally would. Plot. Yeah. There's a show coming out, so maybe we'll do a little bit of talking about that.
Yeah.
Just no spoilers for part 2 because I'm actually in love with this series and I do not want to know.
Not played it anyway. So look, the thing was, like, over the last couple of weeks, we've had a few drops about the series. We've had a couple of bits of casting information, which is fun. Mm-hmm. Dre has obviously recently played the game, and I probably played it a long time ago. Probably didn't finish it. No, I did. I did finish it.
Shameful.
So what we thought we'd do is we would talk a little bit about the game, go through it, the things we like about it, what worked, what didn't work, and then maybe relate it to how that could come together as a TV show. How does that sound?
It sounds good to me, man. And I'm going to start it off.
Fantastic. With your dumb plot.
Oh, shit. I just looked at the casting. I didn't actually know this.
Well, we're going to talk about that, and we're not getting there yet. Like,
I know. I won't spoil it. I'm just saying.
When you said it for yourself.
When you said the casting, it implied, oh shit, there is people that have been casted. I didn't know that.
You spoiled it for yourself.
And
let's go with your dumb plot, man. Give me a plot summary.
Dumb plot. Let me scroll down to dumb plot. Scroll up.
God, I love these.
Okay. Juno and Big Texas take a road trip from hell across the United States, featuring freaky fungi and some hungry hippos that would put Army Hammer to shame. Final destination, lots of anxiety. Because I was anxious playing this game.
Dude, it's a real fucking anxious game.
It's a nail biter.
Well, let me give you mine. You can tell them what you think. You know, when you were saying that, I couldn't get Highway to Hell out of my head by goddamn AC/DC.
Highway to Hell. I hate that song.
Bam. Yeah, I love that song. All right, so mine is Shaun of the Dad.
Yeah, seriously.
A father and daughter road trip of self-discovery across the US, where half the folks they meet are buzzkills and the other half are fun guys to be around.
I tried to find a way to do a fun guy pun, but I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, I done it for you. I made it.
Thank you for that.
I made it. You're welcome.
She is Juno.
So there's actually a big
big
controversy about that. So apparently the original images of her, the main character Ellie, which we'll get to in a moment, the original images looked so much like Ellen Page, now Elliot Page, I believe, that Ellen Page was on a podcast and sort of said, they've literally stolen my image. So when the next promotional material came out, they changed it subtly so she looked less like Ellen Page.
I mean, it still looks like her.
It still looks like not as much though. Look at that original promotional material.
Well, is it like, would I just type in original Ellie?
Sure, yeah. While you're doing that, I'll just quickly summarize the plot. So this is a game that came out in 2013, which is mental considering how good this game is. It's been remastered a couple of times. But essentially, it starts in 2013 where an infectious fungal disease essentially is taking over like the world's population. We then pick up the story 20 years later when Joe finds himself traveling through, sort of what's left of the US. He is tasked with taking a girl who we don't know a lot about, but we know has got is getting a lot of attention. He's tasked with taking this girl across the US, hoping that it may find answers to mankind to help them come back from the brink. It's a really fucking incredible game, and it plays off dangers in a society of this kind, which aren't maybe necessarily what you expect. It is often the human beings, shall we say?
Yeah.
Does that sum it up quite?
For sure it does.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, when you think about like the plot without spoiling things, there's not a lot that happens, but it is this like gripping story.
Oh, so gripping.
But like, it's not like there's like, a Game of Thrones where there's all these things like.
But there's not 10 million characters. You're really like
it's
a
like
few.
Very, very small in that, but it's like dense for those two people.
So I tried to condense this down to some key characters and tell me if I've missed anyone out. Right. So there's obviously Joel and Ellie. Joel's the main male lead, who's an older character, and you have Ellie, who's a young teenager, and like what I mentioned, he's tasked with taking across America. You've got Tess, who's a smuggler in the beginning of the game. You've got Tommy, who I believe is Joel's brother. You've got the Fireflies, who we really only have any contact with. Marlene, who's the leader.
In the first like 20 minutes of gameplay. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. You've got various groups of bandits who hit neither here nor there. You got Henry and Sam, who are the couple of brothers from Pittsburgh, who play a fairly big part for a minute. But then you've got the cannibal bandits, David and those guys, and that's it. Like, and
you've got that Bob or Bill or whatever. Bill.
Oh yeah.
You got Bill. So basically, it's Joel and Ellie and a cast of supporting characters that flick in and out of by
their
chapter.
Road trip. Yeah. All right. So this is to set the scene. Then we've not really touched on what this game is. This is essentially a zombie-like survival horror game, right? Would you say that sounds about right? And they're not zombies. I know they're called the Infected, but for context, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, it's like if you were talking about Uncharted, but stripped down. Uncharted.
You say that every
time. Uncharted.
You love words and you love saying them wrong.
I love words.
Dre, the word lover.
I love words. I love these mics, and I'm trying to say the word Uncharted.
Pronouncing them.
It's a much better name.
Use your enunciation. Uncharted is a better name. Yeah, the real name.
Yeah.
Uncharted doesn't make sense.
Well, maybe they didn't charter their trips.
What are you talking about?
Aren't they explorers? So it was uncharted. They just kind of uncharted.
You're chatting absolute nonsense. Come on.
I don't know where I was going with this.
You were talking about.
It's a much stripped. It's similar style gameplay, but just like way less action packed and more like surviving, grinding, being careful, shoot like with every shot. More stealth, more like planning how you execute a certain scenario.
I feel like the stealth in this is so well done, like compared to a lot of other games. Like, it doesn't make you feel like you just stood around waiting. It's like, it's tense, and the AI doesn't always seem to be as dumb as some AIs do.
Yeah,
it's really well done.
I think it's like, I played this game. This is just talking generally.
Yep.
I played through it twice. The first time I played through it on like normal.
Yep.
Or maybe I played through it on hard. I think I played through it on hard. And then you go the second time I played it on the mode called survival, and it takes away the ability to like listen and see people, and that is so much more fun.
Because that's one of the mechanics of the game.
Because it's kind of like cheating, dude. You're like a superhuman hearing guy. You hear and visualize people from like 20 feet away through walls.
Yeah. So for context, you get like an echo sonar thing if you click a certain button, and you can just see where everything is.
When people are moving, you can kind of see where the people are, and you can plan your
you don't have any of that.
attacks. You don't have that, so you basically have to like kind of approach it as if you were him. Like, okay, I can't see, I can hear them. I don't know if there could be someone right around.
So do you get hints that there's like stuff happening, or you just have to use the sound?
You can use this. You hear the sound, and like if you've played the game before, you kind of know the beats. But playing it the first time that way, I wish I would have, because it would be just way gnarlier.
Yeah. Okay, that's so interesting. So I mentioned a moment ago that this game has essentially two sort of obstacles that get in your way throughout. So you obviously have the zombie-like types, the infected, who are literally based on a real life thing. I don't know how much you know about this. This is something that I find so interesting. Yeah. What that is based on a literal fungus that takes over ants, takes over their motor functions, and literally takes over their brains, and then
bursts through them.
Eventually, when they find the right place to become a proper fungus, they force their jaws to clamp down, and it bursts out of them. It's called, and I'm gonna butcher this.
You got this. Words.
Ophiocordyceps.
Cordyceps is the main thing.
Ophiocordyceps.
Brain fungi.
Or something like that. I'm never going to say it right. But they are the one half of it, which is obviously like a key threat in the game. But the other threat, as I kind of alluded to, is other humans.
For sure.
And you get a lot of that in these types of games, and especially things like The Walking Dead introduced viewers to this in a big way. And it's like films like 28 Days Later, you get these groups of humans who are effectively worse than the infected.
Because they're making the choice, right? And then it explores themes of like kind of man versus man, man versus wild, what's worse?
Yep.
Conflicts like man versus himself. Like I think that it's like what's worse? What's worse, the monsters or the men? There's really cool things that they kind of tackle in this. So I guess before we get into spoiler territory, do you want to talk about like themes and I guess
absolutely. Well, let's
the questions that this
do
really
that.
asks
Well, this is like I say.
What do you think the theme is?
Quickly, before I say that, let me say this was created by Naughty Dog, who, like you say, did Uncharted. They did Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, and you can see their progression towards this through those games. Kind of like
they've come from such a crazy place.
They're incredible. They make such insane. Now this gets a 9.7 on IMDb, but I think more tellingly, IGN, obviously a big games site, whatever it is, magazine, gave it a 10 out of 10. This is like...
I agree with that.
I mean, you can't get better than that.
Maybe 9.75. They need to add a jump button.
Oh,
There's no jump button.
Yeah, I always thought that when I was playing. I was like, I'd love to just jump a little bit here.
Be able to jump and smack somebody?
Just
anyway.
Well, the themes and tones are... I mean, the key one from my playing through this game, it's just hopelessness. Like, all around you, all the time. Everything, like, from the beginning section... where it's not a spoiler, I think it's in the trailers, he loses his daughter. From the beginning section, how humanity reacts, how everything that happens to them just seems to make things worse.
Well, and it's just like nail biting. It's that coupled with like...
So what's your themes?
I'll go into that, but I'm agreeing with you. It's it's just like it's even worse. It's not that just all this shit happens to them. It's also like coupled with the fact that like this game is brutal.
Yeah, and the horror elements.
The combat is brutal. Like so, like every time you get through this crazy shit that's happening to them, and then some of it you see in like a cutscene, right? You're thrust into this combat where you're like literally scraping by for your life through the thick of your teeth, like the thick and thin. I guess.
Well, to put it in context, it changed. The gameplay changes with every situation you're in.
Yeah.
So, for example, when you're up against humans, it's got a much different feel to it than when you're taking on the infected. The infected, they are quite random, and each one is slightly different based on what stage of the infection they're in.
For sure.
Whereas humans, they hunt in packs. They're often very strategic with where they go, but then the game throws you curveballs all the time. I vividly remember one scene that completely messed with your head. When you're in, I think you mentioned him before, I think he was Billy's, whatever he was in his shack.
Complex, yeah.
And out of nowhere, Joel gets flipped upside down.
Oh, that was
and
great.
You're just hanging from the ceiling, and all you can do is just shoot to try and get them away from the people who you're trying to protect.
That's a great sequence.
And it's like, this is the kind of things you're dealing with, and it's just so incredible.
And like every shot matters, and you're swinging upside down. It's just a really good game. You're right. They just constantly like change the settings so that you're like, you subvert your expectations of what's going to happen, how you're going to tackle a certain encounter. And I do like the variety of enemy types and how they things change. Like,
and the final one where its heads like burst open.
Yeah, dude,
I forgot what they're called. Clickers or something.
Clickers, and it's just kind of like the way you fight a clicker is way different than the way you fight a human because 100%. They don't have any regard for themselves. Yep. So you got to fight them differently. It's really fun gameplay wise. But
give me the tones and themes. What are yours? Hopelessness is mine.
I mean, yeah, for sure that's a theme. I think I'm trying to get into. I had so much for this because this thing tackles a bunch of cool stuff. Oh my god, yeah. And I'm just scrolling by it like multiple times. I think it's like one of the I don't know if you can call it a theme, but one of the like I guess questions and ambiguities interwoven through the whole story is like what is more powerful, the will to survive or the power of like love, I would say. And it's like you're basically kind of witnessing a story that asks that question. Sure. And without spoiling it in the end, like I think it does give an answer, but it's just really fun to watch that progress. Sure. So that'd be one of mine, and I guess
harkening back to God, that's a good word. Back to last week when we were talking about like not last week when we were talking about Memento and how your own perceptions change and how you can blind yourself to certain truths. I think kind of fits this as well in many ways.
Well, for sure. And I think that in the sense that Joel blinds himself
absolutely.
to like this reality where he just dehumanizes everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you start with him, and he's basically created the illusion that what he doesn't matter because this is the world we live in. And really, at the end of the day, like, I think, after playing the game, you'll see, like, kind of not true. You have to live with yourself.
Yep.
You have to be able to live with yourself. And I think that is one of the themes too that it kind of touches on. And like, do the ends justify the means?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are like the limits to an organized society, right? Like, do we kind of maybe expect more than it's ever going to be capable of? Like, I think that, like, they show you the extreme of this, but sometimes you see things in this crazy, crazy extreme where, the world is falling apart. Some of that stuff you could see in everyday life now, like where the world hasn't completely fallen apart. So it's almost like maybe asking the question of, like, how, like, sure, this is a post-apocalyptic horror game, but, like, you see this stuff in your world.
Yeah, so, you really fucking do. Yeah.
So what does that say about humanity?
I feel like we talk about this a lot in our podcast about art sort of mirroring life.
Yeah.
This is absolutely a game that I would say straddles that line between, like, media and art.
Oh, for sure.
I think it's so deep. It's just so brutal, and it makes you think about everything.
And the brutality is, like, oddly juxtaposed, very, very sparingly with these fucking tender moments. So it's like, it's just great character work, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, before we jump into spoilers, because I would like to do that fairly quickly, do you have 3 best and 3 worst for this?
Yeah, I think
video of games.
Let me pick. I think I'm gonna keep one of my best out because we're not in spoiler territory.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we'll do that.
Joel finding Ellie after the interactions with David. It's pretty much more than halfway through the game.
Yep.
If you remember, these cannibals we talked about it. It's one of the second cannibal groups. There's a sequence where, like, she's kind of basically almost died.
Yep.
But she's gotten herself out of it. It's not as if he's saving her, but he finds her just after this has happened. And there's just this tender moment where she's just, like, losing herself.
We can talk about that in a minute as well.
Yeah, it's finally all gotten to her. And he says, he just calms her down like you would a child. And he's like someone that's your child. He's like, it's okay, baby girl. You're going to be fine, kind of thing. And I just remember, like, it's quite clear to the viewer by this point that, like, they have taken on more of, like, this was started as a business transaction, but based off their interactions.
Don't go any further, because I feel like that's really pushing the spoiler territory. But yeah,
I know so.
Exactly. Yeah, it really is.
They become friends.
I like what you're saying though. Like, that makes a lot of sense.
I guess my point being that it's this is the first time we hear them kind of voice paternal interaction, as opposed to seeing it, and it was really powerful the way it was done.
Actually, thinking about it, right, I think this game has a lot of parallels, and in an abstract way, don't get me wrong, with the new God of War game. And so it's obviously the new God of War game. It's you've got Kratos, who is a father figure, who is reluctantly looking after his petulant child. And in this, you have this father figure who doesn't want to, but kind of has to look after this petulant child. And it's almost like a parallel version of how a father, a father would treat a son and an inverted commas unwanted son and unwanted daughter in their situations. And that's really interesting parallel.
Yeah, for sure. I think the interesting part is, like, it's too hard to analyze without spoiling.
Okay, let's go into keep me going with you about your three.
The other one, there is the combat mechanics, like, just awesome. I love how brutal fights feel. Like, when I get hit, you feel like you got hit.
Absolutely.
When you hit somebody with the fucking wooden stick, you're like, wow, that guy's done.
Yeah,
like, it's like the camera angles, the weightiness, the bloodiness of it. It's quite good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I like how, they multiple times, like, you get these other peripheral characters, some of which you don't get. You're not going to see again because of the way their plot line ends.
Yeah.
Others of which, like, you kind of hope you do, and you don't, but you got just enough of them, of some of these supporting casts, that, like, that you care about them.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I want to learn more about them. And I think they've set themselves up really well. And they did make a sequel, so I know.
Yeah, they did.
So that I liked how they left me wanting with some of that. They didn't overwhelm me with all these characters. Like some games, like The Witcher, do that and it works.
Sure.
Some games are much more like tactical with how they handle it. And I liked what they did there.
Love it. Any last one?
I was going to say combat mechanics, that, and then I gave you the first one, which was the moment that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Okay, my 3 favorite bits about this one. And I realized when I was writing these, this is, for me, this is a real testament to this game that none of my 3 best or 3 worst, I think, is, I mean, none of it's really about the game or the gameplay. It's all about the story and the narrative.
Yeah. No, I had a bunch of those, but I was worried about talking about
it. Well, mine, I've tried to keep mine as spoiler-free as possible. So, the thing that I love about this game is that it really makes you question, like, the morality of everybody around you. Like not just Joel and Ellie, but, like, everyone you come into, you're like, he might be your brother, but has he got an ulterior motive? Like, you constantly worrying that, and you're constantly thinking to yourself, like, what's going to happen in this situation? It's you in a room with one other person. Could shit go south? You know what I mean? Like, all it takes is one bite.
Very Walking Dead in that way.
It really is.
They take a lot, like, to be honest, Naughty Dog, like, as much as they did a really good thing here, they owe a lot of it to Walking Dead.
Probably.
Like, the first few seasons of Walking Dead were quite good.
And their comics, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my second one was just Joel's arc. Like, we'll get into this a lot more when we talk spoilers, but it is very much like, it's hard to say anything, like I say, without spoiling.
You can leave it at that. It's phenomenally done.
His arc is so well done.
Yeah,
like, from beginning to end of the game. Like, you just literally are just engrossed by it.
100%. And that's like the point when for my number 1 that I was talking about, like, I just feel like that's a quintessential part in that arc where you finally get that release of, you know, he changes as a person. We don't have to say much more than that. And it embodies that change.
And I think my third and final one is just the premise of the fungus, the infected, that it's fucking terrifying. Yeah. Like, it's kind of real.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking crazy.
You know?
Could happen.
That shit fucks me up. The first time I found that
prions,
was real,
bro. Prions will take us all out. Don't worry about the cordyceps.
Dude, I was looking at those. I was looking at those ants and how they get fucked up by this. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Have you heard of prions?
What are prions?
Folded proteins, like anti-proteins.
Huh.
They're like, Joe Rogan thinks they'll be like the end of
course he does.
Humanity. But they are quite scary. Give it a Google.
Joe Rogan's gone downhill, man. Some of his listeners could come listen to us. That'd be a lot of fun. Guys,
just give it a Google.
Give us a chance. Give us a chance, guys. All right. So what are your 3 worst? Hit me up with them.
Needs a jump button.
Yeah. That's the first one we've had that has anything to do with gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, the guy talked about combat, to be fair.
Yeah.
But some random things that take me out of the experience, to be honest, like when you're playing, they can see the enemy can't see your co-op partner or your it's kind of a bit frustrating. Like,
I've noticed that
either give me more control so that I can, like, be accountable for when she fucks up, or, like, you know, make the AI better so that they don't get caught.
So for context, there are times when you're stealthing around enemies, and for example, Ellie's following you at all times, and the enemy will walk around the side of what you're stealthing in. So say it's a table, for example. It will walk around the side of the table.
Straight past.
You will move to get out of its way, but Ellie will just still be there, and the dude doesn't notice. It's like,
it's kind of like, it's not really believable. Yeah, and it takes you out of, like, this world that's, like, very, very, very good.
It does a little bit, yeah.
But
last one?
Great opportunity, and I could be wrong here, for a horde style mode, and I don't think they had one, but maybe it was multiplayer only.
They did a multiplayer mode afterwards. I don't know.
I know they have multiplayer. When you
say
shoot
horde,
each other.
I mean
like
shitloads
bunch
of
zombies coming at you. Survive as long as you can.
Yeah, okay. I think there's one of those in Resident Evil.
There's one in Resident Evil. There's one in
played together.
Most games of this style have it.
First person shooters do. Okay, that's great.
How about yours?
Okay, so the things I didn't like about this game are there are various points, and I get it. It kind of highlights where the chapters begin and end, but there are, like, these flash forwards. And I'm just like, I feel like you miss a lot of the storytelling that you could get within those times, especially near the end when Joel gets injured, which we can talk about in a moment. There's this big flash forward, and you're like, what just happened? Like, I've missed all this stuff. What the fuck is happening? And then all of a sudden, like, characters have changed, and you're like, why did I miss that?
I was a bit annoyed with that at one point, but most of the time I thought it happened at such a poignant part of the story. like something so fun, like that you're kind of like, okay, you did, like it almost carried forward the idea of like, you just move on. This is the world.
Okay,
you know,
fair
this
enough.
crazy thing just happened, and we're gonna yada yada to autumn. You know,
that's fair, but at the same time, it did drive me a little crazy. The second one was,
that's just because you liked the game so much you wanted to play those parts. I get it. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And like I think that's completely fair. So the one, the next one was, and it's a bit of if I say the last one's like a storytelling crutch, this is a massive storytelling crutch. It's we've got to the place we were trying to get to. Oh wait, the people have moved sort of scenario. It's like, it just gives you reason to keep going with the game, and like that happens a lot. I think it happens like 4 or 5 times.
That was my point. Like nothing really happens in the plot. This is a story of 2 people trying to find someone across the country, and that is the story.
And I completely understand that, and I understand the premise that, you know, like they don't have ways of communicating across long distances. Fair enough, but like it gets a bit tiresome. Like just think of something different after the second or third one. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that they could have, and I wonder what they're going to do with part 2 from a story perspective.
Yeah.
But, and I guess, like, by wonder, everyone out there could play it? No.
Yeah.
It's not like that big of a, it's not an unanswered.
Definitely has played it.
Yeah, it's not an unanswered question, to be fair. But
I think, and I think my third one is just, that I'm just bad at these games.
You gotta put it on
survival
easy, bro.
horror. No, I did. I played it. I've finished it, so I can't have been that bad at it, but I didn't. It frustrates me. Like I get frustrated.
The good part is the shooting isn't like essential, like because you can stealth your way out of most situations,
and you can also batter the shit out of people with like clubs and stuff.
But when you're good at shit, like there were some times where I was just like headshot. And I was like, fuck, 3 bullets, 3 bodies, bro. I'm doing good. I got a whole clip.
You smashed it, bro. You smashed it. All right. Well, I think from like a non-spoiler perspective, like I'm dying to get into spoilers.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if this is completely relevant, but would you rather play this or watch Aquaman 2018?
Play this.
Would you?
For sure. That was really easy.
This is.
I mean, getting into that.
The premise and the intrigue of this is so much better than that.
Do you think you're gonna want to watch the adaptation more than you'd watch?
Yeah,
rewatch
absolutely.
Aquaman 3 based off the casting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we want to jump straight into that?
We'll talk about that just in a minute.
Okay.
Let's spoil the game first for everyone, and then we'll talk about the show maybe.
Okay, yeah. So
spoilers from now on for the game.
Spoiler free or spoiler overview.
Let's just talk about the spoilers then.
Yeah.
I mean, the key bits really are like that fucking finale.
Yeah. So the part that we didn't touch on yet is that in essence, he's taking her across the country because she is. I don't even think we've mentioned
immune.
This, did you? She's immune, and he's like. So he's kind of like, normally if this was any other girl,
I hinted at the beginning. I gave it a bit. I fluffed around it a bit.
Okay.
So
normally if this was any other girl, and Joel is tasked with smuggling someone across to a different city, he would have stopped this many times before this. But at some point, he would have said, "Fuck this, go survive yourself. I'm out. Right? I'm in it for me."
Yeah.
But at some point, he finds out that she's immune. And
very early on in the game.
Yeah, very early on. And he feels an obligation to kind of humanity to do something more because his partner at the time dies and basically says Tess as his parting wish, like, hey, we're bad people. You need to rectify this. This gives the world a chance. And
100%.
He kind of feels kind of guilted into it, really.
But and it's this dichotomy between this side of him that feels kind of guilted into it, and then this other side of him which is growing to really care for the girl. And thing we didn't,
which doesn't exist until
thing we didn't talk about at the beginning was at the is that at the very beginning of the game, his daughter dies in the original outbreak by just a random act of just
stupidity, really.
Yeah, cowardice by a member of the army, and Joel basically shuts all this down, all these emotions down, and then him being with Ellie brings it back out of him
slowly but
surely. Yeah.
Like he's a pretty big dick.
And that
for
scene
the first
you were talking
half.
about a moment ago.
Yeah, he's a pretty big dick for the first half. To be honest, and you're kind of like you're frustrated at him because he cares. You can tell at certain times through the game that he cares, but then he doesn't quite want to let himself care.
Yes, exactly.
And it's this grief. Dealing with grief.
And the thing you were talking around a moment ago that I cut you off from, so apologies, was that the first time he really shows any proper affection on camera, this is also the first time that you see Ellie actually properly murder someone on camera.
Yeah,
like which is real graphic. So they're caught by a second bunch of cannibals, and David, who is I would probably say the main antagonist of this.
You've given him a little bit more than that, I would say.
He's
like kind of like the final antagonist, but I wouldn't say he's the main. The main is just the world.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? If we're discarding the world, like he's the one that sort of shone up.
Embodies it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. He embodies everything. He embodies like the cannibalistic people that are just like crazy, the people that you can't trust, the people he embodies all the different types of enemies.
Let's talk about him in a minute. But so like they're caught by them, and then what essentially happens is Ellie is separated from him, and she has essentially got a split second to attack the guy, David, and she just mashes his head with a machete, which is brutal. Yeah. And that's and Joel trying to calm her down and make her realize that, like, don't worry, like this
it's over.
You're
fine.
Is super. He
was about to like rape her and eat her. It was about to be some gnarly shit
more than likely.
Going on,
yeah,
for sure. And I guess brutal. the point being, like, I think that at that point you as a viewer knew, and very much were across the fact that Joel viewed her as a daughter figure by this point in the game. Yeah. But that was like the first time that Ellie fully breaks down. Yeah, I think. And B, like to the point where she needs someone to pull her out of it. Yeah. And B, Joel actually through dialogue does something.
We've actually moved away from talking about the main plot twist of this by
seriously,
by sidetracking into this.
Anyway,
the main plot twist.
The main plot twist is, there's basically they've been searching for the Fireflies the whole game because they're gonna help them create a cure.
Through
they
Ellie.
Get there through Ellie, and kind of it gets determined by some scientist that we don't see off screen that the only way to actually potentially have a cure is to remove the spore, which will kill her.
Ellie's brain, which would literally mean killing her. And the plot, it then essentially devolves into, you don't actually have a choice in this. This is the game making you do this. Mm-hmm. Joel makes a conscious decision that he can't let Ellie die. Yeah. So he bursts into the operating theater while she's unconscious. You have the choice to murder the doctors or not. But
I don't think you do.
No, you have a choice.
Because I couldn't get around the guy. I tried it the second playthrough, and I was like, I couldn't get around him. I had to shoot.
Well, at least one of them you've got to shoot. Let's put it that way.
You do have to shoot one of them, I think.
The rest of them, I don't think you have to. But still, I reckon I probably would in that scenario, which says a lot about me. And he essentially then takes her and escapes while killing Marlene, the head of the Fireflies, in the process. And it literally gives you it's not the choice because it's not a choice for you, but like it's literally showing that his choice is between either the greater good or the one that the
potential greater
loves
good
as a daughter,
or like your
which
personal
is
love.
Brutal and deep,
it's fucking a hard thing to answer, and it's also like it is that question of the will to survive, versus the will to love. It's that question of like, do the ends justify the means?
Yeah,
it's all sorts of crazy, cool.
I love
questions that it makes you ask, and I guess the other crazy part is he doesn't tell her that he lied,
and then and he lies to her. That's the key
he doesn't
part.
tell her. Sorry, he doesn't tell her
what he did,
that what happened and what he did. He tells her, "Oh, it was all fake," because she passes out. She had no idea she was at the hospital.
And he basically tells her that they found other people with the same condition she has.
You're not special, and they haven't figured it out.
And they're using one of their other and it's the lie and the sort of recognition in her eye that he's lying to her, which really puts like a dark spin on the end of this game.
It makes you kind of come out of it feeling like not so good about it, even though
it's just brutal.
He did something that was actually quite like, I guess you could describe as heroic in a way. Yeah. Depending on who you are.
I tell you one thing that I didn't really mention in 3 Best and 3 Worst, but does kind of annoy me, that I don't feel like Joel learns from the stuff that happens around him. Like, he gets ambushed a lot. Like, for someone who's been living this world for the full 20 years.
The fucking mechanics of the game. Like
I mean.
It's like one place to the next, same thing. It's the same thing The Walking Dead went through, right?
I completely agree, but it does get a bit tiresome after a while. And that's a little bit of a game breaker for me, that like you think he learned to check his corners. I'm obviously being facetious, but like that's a little bit frustrating in my eyes. Did you know about this game though, actually, that Joel wasn't originally supposed to be the main character? Ellie was originally supposed to be traveling with, I think it was Tess and a bunch of smugglers. So Joel was just a character within that bunch, so like one of the crew. And I guess after initial testings, they realized it would work better as like a just a 2-person sort of like.
That happens though.
Sure.
Right? The stories kind of form as you go.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's really interesting. I like those ideas. One of the elements as well, we were talking about world building and how this world is built so interestingly, is a lot of the dialogue is just so poignant. Like there's a section when Ellie is asking Joel, like, what's a job? And if you think about it, like, she's a young teenager. This has been going on for 20 years. She'd have never lived in a time when real jobs were a thing.
It's just juxtaposed by his like memories of like nostalgia and
crazy.
Her just kind of living and finding beauty in a world that he sees as decrepit
and
like
broken.
It's just this crazy conflict, right? And
the opposite sides of the coin. One who just sees like the broken world, and one who sees the beauty in it. It's really like.
And that's one the learning about the old world, and not even being able to comprehend it. You're right. It's just wild.
And for me, I agreed. That is probably for me the heart of the game. Like the disparity between the two characters and how Ellie eventually brings some warmth into Joel.
Yeah, she brings his humanity back
in a way. But then at the end, you see that then the big twist is that his humanity isn't back. It's he's almost using her as a crutch.
I don't know. Like, that's one interpretation. You can interpret it both ways. Like, I think you could interpret it like the fact that in the opposite way as well, where he basically had come to grips with the fact that this world is shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to live, like, how I live doesn't matter. This world is shit. And then basically actually finds humanity and finds something to live for and decides, actually, this world does matter. And it's the people in it that make it valuable and make it worth living.
Sure.
And so there's no way I'm going to just like sacrifice something beautiful like that for the possibility.
Beautiful.
I don't know what happened there.
You went full hick on us. That's great.
Beautiful like that for, the possibility of something else. Or you got to have principles, and they're not principles if you can abandon them when it's a hard choice.
That's a real beautiful statement of you.
Beautiful.
Well, one thing I nearly said in my 3 best and 3 worst is, for me, I feel like that Joel arc. So this game is very much open interpretation. It's like however you kind of feel in that moment. And I kind of feel like Joel's arc is almost you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I feel like that final twist, that last split second, is that he brought himself back from the brink. He got this girl to where she needed to be. He'd fulfilled his promise. But then he just couldn't go through with it.
Well, like
villainy takes many forms. I feel like that's one of them.
You're making that argument, and I can understand how you can make it, but like, and I do think that it was what I will grant you there. I think it was a selfish choice.
Massively selfish.
I think it was a selfish choice.
That's where I'm coming from.
I do think it was a selfish choice, but it was a selfish choice grounded in like a philosophy of like you can't like. Having lost his daughter that way in like such a pointlessly like futile way,
brutal,
like and like just unnecessary. Like, would he does he want to potentially do that same thing again? Like, I think that he's basically defining value it differently than the rest of society.
Yeah,
at that
for sure.
point.
And
so
agreed. And that's
the question is, let's put it this way: would you do what he did?
That's really probably.
What would you do?
I've never been in that situation, funnily
enough.
enough, so I don't.
Very few people have.
I think I would probably focus on the greater good in that situation. But then how can I possibly say that without knowing the journey they've been through and all the hardship? Anyway, look.
It's just, you just basically say it's your brother.
The great thing is it's polarizing, and that's what's great about this game. Like, we're still talking about it. When was this released? 2013?
Yeah.
We're still talking about this fucking nearly 10 years on.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal game. It ticks all the boxes. Now, super quickly, let's talk about
the adaptation.
The TV show. So this is coming to HBO. The things we know about it is it's expected to come early 2022. What do you think about the castings?
I like Ellie.
So Ellie is played by Bella Ramsey, who, for anyone who doesn't know, is Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones, who in Game of Thrones was a badass.
She was. I hope I think she can have that sassiness. I want, that'll be good for the role. I don't want her to do that too much. I hope that she embodies that natural curiosity that Ellie kind of has.
That was my problem. I think Ellie has a natural curiosity and softness to her, which you don't see of her in Game of Thrones. I haven't seen enough of her.
Not to say that she can't do it. We don't.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I just haven't seen that in her to know that. I feel like from what I've seen, she looks like a great actress, so great choice. The other one that we know is Joel, who's been played by favorite of the show, Pedro Pascal. Do you think
I'm iffy on this?
It could be better.
It could be better, but couldn't it be better? Don't you want it better?
Wish
for it.
His catchphrase is
make a wish.
It's good, but it could be better. I think he's good. I
love Pedro Pascal, but it's hard for me. Like, I hope he has a Texas accent.
I hope he doesn't have a Texas accent.
I hope he has it.
I hope he doesn't.
You can't not have it.
That's just from one interpretation of the character.
I guess you're true. You're right, but
I feel like
this is my exact point. What you just said and what I just said. I wrote down, will be interesting for this adaptation. It most definitely can be adapted from a narrative and dialogue perspective. Everything is there. The story beats are there for a long form show. But if they don't get this casting like A++ right, it will fail. Because A, it's so focused on these two characters.
Yes.
B, like the voice acting is so good in the game
really
that I don't know if people will ever be able to let go of that. Like I think it'll always pale in comparison. But that could be.
Well, when that begs the question, then, do you think they're going to have to take it a slightly different direction than exactly the way the game pans out?
I think that they can use the main things from the game. They should change some things for sure.
That's all we know about the casting, by the way. There's been rumors about other people, but that's all we know now.
So I take your point though. Like as opposed to trying to kind of recreate it, unless you found the perfect dude to be Joel, right?
Yeah, Pedro Pascal.
Unless you nailed it. Like you kind of.
He just needs the Donald Trump wig, and he's perfect.
I try to forget that movie.
Look, this is being written by the creator of Chernobyl, which I haven't actually watched yet, but just has like flawless ratings everywhere. Yeah. And I'm down for that, man. It just sounds. I mean, HBO.
It's gonna be hard not to just make it The Walking Dead, though.
Think of a show that. I can't think of a really bad show on HBO.
Are they the ones adapting it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good news.
Yeah. I mean, like, so other than saying, like, where do you think it goes? Like, I just thought, as long as it doesn't go the way of The Walking Dead, where it's just been extended for almost pointless reasons. Like, it's just got to really be, I think it's going to be tight, condensed. I can imagine the first season not covering the whole of the first game.
You reckon?
Maybe just one of the seasons it flits through for the first chapter almost.
Because there's
a lot to do in that first. Like you've got to do all the world building. You're not gonna
game. True. I think the first 3 episodes could probably take place in the DMZ or wherever the hell they are.
Yeah, the original in Boston. Yeah, absolutely. All
right. You know what this made me think though, and just in parting.
Sure.
How badly there needs to be a Halo long-form show that isn't like the one that they're going to make soon, because that one's just going to be about the games. But like Halo, they need to make a show that doesn't actually focus on Master Chief because he's a boring-ass character. It focuses on the entire world, and he's just one character in it. Anyway, I had this I literally wrote notes about that because it inspired me so much.
We could even come back to games that could be TV shows again at some point. But I did want to ask you, I mentioned him a moment ago and sort of theorized about this. Who do you think is going to be outside of the world? Do you think they're going to bring David in as a main bad guy? I
hope not.
I kind of hope so.
I hope not. I think that David can David is a good embodiment of all the different things that they he's kind of summarizes them all, right? Because he's this guy that, for people that haven't kind of played the game, but I don't know why you'd be listening to this if you haven't.
Yeah, you got pretty far into this one.
He's this guy that comes off initially as quite friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
And then is two-faced to a degree, but not fully. Still towards the end, still kind of tries to convince Ellie that he's gonna help her in the end.
He tries to bring her into his cult.
Yeah, whatever they are. We don't really know much, but that's why he tries to adopt her, which is I guess in his weird way, a form of flattery, right?
Sure.
He's not trying to eat you. He's trying to adopt you. Or eventually rape you, whatever he's going to do. Point being, he embodies that. He embodies the cannibal side of it. And then he also embodies what kind of Joel and Ellie embody to a degree. He's got his crew. He's sticking together with them. They've killed plenty of people too.
I think you could seed him really early on. There's ways you could bring him in without having to actually see him. You could have reports about cannibalistic groups, etc., etc.
Well, that's just kind of like a given in the world, though.
What I'm really getting at here is who would be a good casting for this character? Who do you think?
That is a different question. Steve Buscemi.
Oh, fuck me.
frightening.
Well, the thing is, like, this guy's cunning, right?
Bruce Bolton,
he's
the guy
also
that plays
like
Bruce Bolton.
He's also psychotic, but he's also trustable. That's the one thing you've got to take out. Like, at that beginning, they kind of trust him.
He
talks Ellie around.
Ellie does eventually.
He talks around. So like, yeah, Bruce Bolton maybe, but like, I feel like he's not that trustable. The guy.
You're right. He's a little bit too. Yeah. He's actually the opposite. You're like, what is he up to?
A bit too sneaky. Yeah. So you've got to have that. I find, like, honestly, if we go, like, let's just take a step back here. Pedro Pascal could do that phenomenally. Really? He could be. He's got that cunning side to him. He could play a psychopath pretty well, and like, you trust him.
Too likable though.
But that's kind of the point.
That guy is just enough likable, just enough not.
Sure.
Too good looking, I think.
I tell you one I wrote down, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. He'd have to be way, way younger, but like a really young sort of Leon era Gary Oldman. Yeah. Like, I feel like that character, that actor is perfect for this. Work. You know,
I'm more curious how they'd cast, who they'd cast for Bill. I thought Bill was the funniest fucking character. Really? Yeah, he's such a fucking crazy guy. He's just like this gay guy that just doesn't trust anybody.
That could be anyone though.
Yeah, but like,
you could do that.
Thanks, dude. Overweight, I was about to say.
Yeah, well, totally you.
No, look, it's a great game. I can't wait to watch the show. I'm sure it's gonna.
Dude, it's 10 out of 10 in IGN. Like, I fucking agree.
There's very few games that I would say 10 out of 10. I would give this one a 10 out of 10. I would give
9.75. I believe you said.
That was just a joke about the jump button. I think they do add a jump button in The Last of Us 2. I googled it because I was like, "Is there a fucking jump button?" I just haven't figured it out. And they're like, "Last of Us 2 introduces a jump button."
Oh, amazing! Thank God. Right. Well. That's our thoughts. That's where we're coming from on the Last of Us and the video game, and hopefully the TV show. Yeah. Thank you for sticking with it. We really appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, guys. You can find us on the pod. Oh, do we have correspondence?
You can find us if you hashtag us Podcast Assemble on Twitter, which friend of the show Steve did. Okay. So thank you, friend of the show Steve. Again, these guys are really keeping us afloat at the minute. Friend of the show Matt's been here as well too. So yes, friend of the show Steve did tweet us. He did messages. He was sort of replying to we mentioned last week about Falky and the Bucky Boys.
And Bucky Boy.
We're bringing it back one last time. Fuck, we don't need to talk about this anymore. Yeah, and he agrees. He felt like there was a lot of sort of like jumps in logic in the show, like the Falcon and Bucky relationship, starting off with them hating each other, then out of kind of nowhere they were best
just like
friends.
2 episodes later.
What do you think about that?
After that weird thing where their knees touch.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah, they did like a little scissor.
Oh, I see. So when they're in the psychiatrist's office.
Tip, yeah.
Okay. He also says,
like, what are you talking about?
He also says he feels like this could have been a movie, and I think you kind of hinted at that last week. I kind of agree.
Yeah. Could have been.
Yeah, is that what you think?
I think so.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
And finally, friend of the show, Matt, commends us on our efforts at the Mortal Kombat theme at the beginning of our 1995 Mortal Kombat episode. Where
I haven't.
Do you want to do one more?
I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to.
My voice was gone after that. I literally couldn't do it. He also commends your choices in music, with Audioslave saying that Chris Cornell was fantastic. Dude, on that Audioslave album, which I agree. Absolutely agree.
Leggy.
He also really likes the casting of the new Scorpion in the Mortal Kombat movie, and says he's pretty sure that he was once upon a time not only an actor but also like a weapons champion in martial arts, which we can look up, and I appreciate that.
I can believe it, dude.
I can see
the guy executes well these stunts.
He is phenomenal. We really appreciate all the correspondence, guys. If there's, as we say, if you have any questions or anything you'd like us to just chew our yarns over here and talk through, we'd love to hear from you. Where can they find us?
thepodcastassemble@gmail.com.
Do you want to say that any quieter?
thepodcastassemble@gmail.com.
Dude, you'd make a really good David with that sort of creepy attitude.
Come here, Ellie.
That's it. Or hashtag us on Twitter at podcastassemble. We'll find you. Yeet. I think. All right. Yeah. Yeet. Well, guys, thanks again for sticking through it. We hope that the microphones worked well. We hope that you can hear every word in crystal clear.
Just buttery, nerdy goodness.
Well, thanks again, guys.